Kingdom Hearts 1 is but a gem in amongst the numerous amounts of Kingdom Hearts games we've received over the years. I would go as far to say that Kingdom Hearts 1 is probably the most unique Kingdom Hearts game out of the bunch. While yes, the Kingdom Hearts games have generally improved gameplay-wise going forward, as it seems to be that Kingdom Hearts 2 is the highest regarded Kingdom Hearts game from a gameplay standpoint. There are still people to this day that hold Kingdom Hearts 1 as being the almighty best, even in the sense of gameplay. Of course, this is just a matter of opinion. However, though, the general consensus seems to be that when looking towards either Kingdom Hearts 2 or now Kingdom Hearts 3, those reign supreme from the gameplay standpoint. However, though, what I'm talking about in the sense of uniqueness is just the attention to detail that Kingdom Hearts 1 contains. Everything from its exploration aspects, whether it be the way that you receive treasures, specific mini-games, or other little cool details that are tucked away that you could go years without knowing. This level of attention to detail is not present within any other Kingdom Hearts game going forward. And the strangest thing is, when you compare this level of detail found in Kingdom Hearts 1 and compare it to the rest of the games, it really does to a certain degree make the rest of the games sort of feel almost bland. Now again, as I was saying, combat-wise, gameplay-wise, the Kingdom Hearts games have certainly improved. Kingdom Hearts 2 absolutely buckled down on the gameplay pace and the way in which different combat scenarios work. This took the sort of helm for the series going forward, I personally feel. But as a result, it meant that the little attention to details ended up taking a complete backseat. Now, I'm not saying that these are completely null void from the Kingdom Hearts games now, but just when you compare KH1 to the rest, Kingdom Hearts 1 most certainly reigns supreme. I wanted to talk about a lot of these cool small little details found within Kingdom Hearts 1 to give people a really good idea as to why KH1 stands out so much in amongst the rest. So I thought I'd start off with the alternate cutscenes. There are quite a few different alternate cutscenes within Kingdom Hearts 1, which is something that isn't present in any of the other KH games. Well, I mean, you know, aside from this bad boy. Here are a few examples. At the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1 in Traverse Town, there are two different cutscenes depending on whether or not you defeat Leon or, of course, be defeated by him. Now, most of us ended up losing to Leon, let's be real, and this causes Sora to be knocked out unconscious. Well, pretty much the same thing ends up happening in the alternate version if you were to actually defeat Leon. However, Sora actually passes out from just straight exhaustion from the actual fight in hand, and we also do get to see Leon drop to his knee. What's also cool about this is Yuffie comes in saying that he's starting to slip, which I think is absolutely hilarious. The other really cool detail about this, however, though, is if we actually do win against Leon, he doesn't actually give you an elixir when you're on your way to leaving Traverse Town, in amongst the other goodies that both Aerith as well as Yuffie give you. I guess this is because you ended up proving yourself with actually defeating him from the get-go. And yeah, as we all know, elixirs are like one of the best items in Kingdom Hearts, so he's pretty much giving you that because of the fact that, well, you suck. Another example is we can actually lose to Cloud in the preliminary rounds of Olympus's very first visit in the game. If we win, of course, we see a cutscene of Cloud just simply on the ground, and then he gets trampled by Clifford over here. But if we end up losing, Sora is the one on the ground, with Cloud about to strike Sora down and deciding not to. The same follow-up thing ends up happening with, of course, Clifford trampling the shite out of him. The absolute best example, though, of the alternate cutscenes in use is most certainly during the Monstro segment of Kingdom Hearts 1. For most of the Kingdom Hearts games, mainly looking at the mainline ones, there's no actual set order you're meant to complete the worlds in. Of course, you do have to finish a set amount of worlds in order to unlock the next set, but it's known that for some worlds you can actually end up skipping out or doing before, technically speaking, you're actually meant to do another world, just going off via the battle level of that said world. So an example here is you can go ahead and finish Atlantica, Neverland, and Halloween Town without even touching Monstro. Now, of course, we know that when it comes to Neverland, Sora finds out a lot of kind of wacky stuff to do with Riku. It's made 100% clear that clearly something's going on with Riku. He is definitely on the dark side. We also know that after Neverland 2, he gets 100% control over the Heartless. Oh, and of course he ends up kidnapping Kairi. So it's interesting actually going back to Monstro, considering that we do have a lot of interactions with Riku, mentioning things about Kairi, and even actually having a fight against the Parasite Cage with Riku by our side. All of this stuff ends up changing if you actually do complete Neverland before going to Monstro. Yes, Square Enix kept this in mind, and a lot of the interactions and cutscenes to do with Riku throughout Monstro are a lot different. Now the reason why Square did this was because everything that Sora experienced to do with Riku in Neverland wouldn't make any sense if there were not any alternate cutscenes in Monstro if you actually go to Monstro after the fact. Of course, Square could have put in some kind of barrier to ensure that players go to Monstro before touching Neverland, but they decided to take that extra step and add in a bunch of alternate cutscenes for this specific reason. When we encounter the Parasite Cage, normally Riku is meant to be by your side in the cutscene as well as in the fight. However, in the alternate version, he is nowhere to be seen. The mention of Kairi when we first arrive in the world is completely removed in the alternate version, obviously because at this point Sora already knows that Riku has kidnapped her. When encountering Riku in the stomach section of Monstro with Pinocchio, rather than Sora starting off with the line, "Hey, let Pinocchio go, Riku," Sora just straight up says, "Wait, what are you doing?" Riku responding with, "What, you don't remember your best friend?" and Sora following up with, "Liar, you're not Riku." Pretty much showing us that at this stage, Sora does have a pretty big inkling that this is definitely not the Riku he knows. Of course, we end up finding out that he was possessed and being manipulated by Ansem. Riku also skips out the entire lie of "let's join forces so we can save Kairi." Footage that you guys have been watching is thanks to Sonic Shadow Silver 2. I'm going to leave his video of the complete comparison of the alternate and original versions of these cutscenes. I highly recommend that you guys give it a watch. It's some really interesting stuff if you've never seen these cutscenes before. The way that Square Enix went about hidden treasures in Kingdom Hearts 1 was just absolutely fantastic. Going forward, of course, treasure chests are just in obvious spots. You really didn't have to go too far out of your way in order to find these treasures. Kingdom Hearts 3, because of the fact the worlds were so much bigger this time around, sort of incentivized exploring a little bit more so, but it really still wasn't to the same degree as Kingdom Hearts 1's in regards to the cleverness behind actually hiding a lot of these different treasures. There is a hidden treasure within Ursula's room where if you actually use fire on the sea urchin, it will end up revealing a hidden chest. There's also another neat little trick where you use the sea urchin right up against this rock wall here, which will end up creating a shortcut for you. Halloween Town also had a couple of neat ones, like for instance, if you go to Jack's house and ring the doorbell 3 times, you'll be granted an elixir. Also going to this area of the graveyard, you have to play this like little mini game thing for the mayor. It's essentially a game of Simon Says, smacking the different gravestones as the different ghosts come up. You have to do it in order, and then once doing so, the pumpkin behind you will end up exploding and you'll receive another treasure chest. The infamous Destiny Islands chest, which of course is annoying because if you do end up missing it, then well, that's it. You can't return to Destiny Islands at all. This chest was inside a cave that was on the side of the wall, so you actually had to pick up a box, place it just below the ledge, jump on the box, and then jump on the ledge to of course reach the chest that contained a protect chain. Actually having to use something in the environment, move it so that we're then able to access another area. While this wasn't all that common in KH1, it was used a few times, something I would like to see used more throughout the series. Having to use Blizzard on the Bubbles and Hollow Bastion to reach this ledge right here that contains the chest. The well-known Travis Town Cafe chest, we actually have to put out all of the candles using Blizzard magic in order to unlock it. Just from these alone, you can tell that there was some really cool thought placed behind some of these secret treasures throughout Kingdom Hearts. Whereas again, I just don't feel like the same level of thought has actually been put into any of the games going forward. forward. More so, yes, Square Enix have actually inputted secret-based treasures and hard-to-reach areas and whatnot in other Kingdom Hearts games, but most of these are found using movement-based abilities, like of course a high jump or aerial dodge or more of a glide. We don't really so much have to do unique things within these worlds to figure out how to get a certain item unlocked or how to get from one point to another. The biggest downfall though, however, towards Kingdom Hearts 1's treasure system is that there is no tracking whatsoever found in the journal. Yeah, for any other Kingdom Hearts game going forward, this is definitely one thing that Square got right, and that is to actually track the amount of treasures that you've collected for each world, and to also display if you have missed anything. This is probably why certain different treasures have probably gone unnoticed for many years, because we were totally unaware that certain ones were actually not collected yet. It's extremely strange, and one thing that I honestly do wish was added into the HD remix version of the game. Unfortunately not. I also liked the interactive side and other little things that Kingdom Hearts 1 did to really make it stand out in amongst other KH games. So here's some examples towards those. First and foremostly is definitely the postcard system, which was fantastic to see return for that of Kingdom Hearts 3, but I honestly think that the thought process behind the postcard system was just incredibly lackluster for KH3. The way that you achieved postcards within KH3 was by simply just purchasing items from the item shop. And of course, if you had a lot of money, you could just simply keep buying items, back out and hope you received a postcard. In Kingdom Hearts 1, there were a total of 10 different postcards, all scattered throughout that of Traverse Town, and each one of them required you to do a number of different things. As an example, you had to climb to the roof of the accessory shop to gain one, open up the blue safe with inside of Sid's little gummy vendor shop. Once Sora had learnt that he can actually use the Keyblade to unlock keyholes, smacking a fan inside the item shop, or even looking inside of a pot with inside of Geppetto's house. And speaking of Geppetto as well, when we actually do finish up Monstro's world, and of course Geppetto then ends up leaving Monstro, he finds himself in the world of refuge, which is Traverse Town. This again adds to that whole layer of the world of Traverse Town that, yes, this really truly is a world that people go to when they end up losing or have no home to go to. There was a whole new interior added, which was Geppetto's house, and we could even go to Geppetto to receive gummy blueprints. The Trinity system too was also a really neat thing that I just don't understand why has never returned for the mainline Kingdom Hearts games. A system where we can use the power of Sora, Donald, and Goofy to activate these heart marks located all around the different worlds. All are, of course, different colors, and perform a different sort of animation or thing when actually activated. We learn the different colored Trinity marks and how to activate them as we go through the game. It's a harmless little addition, and again, I just don't understand why this has never returned. You might think that it is some sort of unnecessary thing, but to be fair, I really think that Square Enix could have done something quite neat with this system, expanded upon it for KH2 or KH3, a means to perhaps create shortcuts throughout worlds, access hidden, blocked off areas that otherwise would be inaccessible. I feel like there is enough backtracking that goes on in Kingdom Hearts games with returning to do certain different mini games in a specific world after we've already been to that world, or of course to collect treasures because we now have the glide ability and we can finally access that ledge. So again, that mentality could certainly have been added into that of KH2 and KH3 for a Trinity Mark system. Being able to cook up a high potion as well as brew up an ether within Deep Jungle, I think this is just one of the coolest little details in KH1. But yeah, you're actually able to examine these random objects around the camp in Deep Jungle. You need to activate all of the examinable items in order to get the recipe and experiment cards. You can then head over to the stove, making sure that you do have equipped a potion. You can examine the stove, which chucks the potion into the pot. You then have to smack open the stove door, cast fire on the stove to of course heat it, and voila, there is a high potion. But either make your way over to the experiment table, make sure that you do have yet another potion equipped, examine the table, you'll then automatically chuck the potion onto the table, then simply cast Blizzard onto the table, and voila, in either. I really do wish we saw more of these kinds of things. It just adds an extra layer of flavor to the worlds. Atlantica doesn't probably get talked enough about in a positive regard all too often here in the Kingdom Hearts community, though I've definitely warmed up to Atlantica over the years. The one thing that I absolutely adore about this world in Kingdom Hearts 1 is its chests. Unlike any other world in any other Kingdom Hearts game, Atlantica is the only one that has unique chests. And these are massive clams that you actually have to smack open in order to get the item that is inside. Some of these clams are also different colored that represents different magic that you actually have to use against them in order to crack them open, which I think is just so cool. Though I have to say, I definitely do prefer the way that Kingdom Hearts 2 did the whole chest appearance thing, where all chests physically look the same, but visually speaking, the color palettes are all different to match the theme of each world. Lighting the fireplace with fire within the accessory shop in Traverse Town. Now, while this doesn't actually do too much, the little detail goes the extra yard, where if you actually end up doing this and you make your way to the roof of the accessory shop, you'll notice the chimney actually smoking. And you can also put out the fire if you don't want that smoky effect by simply using Blizzard on the fireplace. The third district actually had a neat little thing with the thunder magic. There is an exposed electrical wire that you can use thunder on. This will then actually end up activating the different platforms in the gizmo shop so that you can jump on them to reach 3 separate buttons. Pressing all 3 of these will then activate the clock in the gizmo shop. After a while, the clock hands will end up stopping. You can examine the clock for 2 postcards. Using certain party members in a couple of the worlds to access specific areas, these are namely Beast and Aladdin. You'll need Aladdin in your party to call upon Boo to touch some of the activation gems in the lower areas of the Cave of Wonders. Some of this is required, but then others are actually there to access hidden treasures. Beast is used to bust through walls to access some areas as well. Again, some of this is required, but others are actually used to access hidden areas. And one thing that has never returned to Kingdom Hearts since number 1 is actually being able to call upon your friends in battle so that they can actually focus on the enemy that you're actually locked onto by double tapping triangle. It makes sense as to why this has never returned for any of the mainline Kingdom Hearts games before, as of course with Kingdom Hearts 2 introducing that of reaction commands. This would most likely get in the way of the reaction command system, though with that being said, I do wish that there was another button that this could have been shortcutted to. I think these are enough examples to explain exactly why Kingdom Hearts most certainly stands out in amongst the rest of the Kingdom Hearts games. While I definitely do believe that each Kingdom Hearts game has its own unique cool little quirks. To make each one unique, it goes without saying that Kingdom Hearts 1 really is the most unique when it comes to the little sprinkles on top. It really did make each world that you go to a real cool experience, just wondering what you're going to be able to examine or interact with in order to get some kind of cool unique treasure or new area to explore. I think that Kingdom Hearts 3 sort of reinvigorated this feeling and to a degree kind of brought this back in a way, with most of the worlds throughout KH3 having a certain gimmick to really make that certain world stand out. It's just that with Kingdom Hearts 1, it's very apparent that there were just so many more other little things completely scattered throughout. I would love to know what you guys think about KH1's little details in the comment section down below, so please do share. However guys, I'm Cynical, hopefully I'm having a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.